The greatest enemies of ants are other ants, just as the greatest enemies of men are other men. Augustine Forel. One particular outcome of nature is that one group of animals that share so many parallels with us are made up of tiny boneless creatures who live in underground tunnels. Ants are highly social animals, as are humans. Ants usually communicate with pheromones. Humans do so with language, as we're not too fond of smelling each other. These pheromones communicate the here and now, while our language is more advanced. A more advanced form of communication which allows us to speak about the past and present and future, along with far-off locations outside of the range of our immediate senses. Nonetheless, like humans, ants are also urban creatures, if you could call them that. They're in fact more urban than we are, given that it wasn't until the year 2010 when there were more humans in cities than in rural areas. With the exception of some species of solitary ants, most ants live in vast ant colonies, oftentimes underground. The use of tunnels and chambers somewhat resembles that of a city zoning code, as there are various uses that are segregated and connected by a series of transportation networks. And you also have zones for different uses, as there's a division of labor. Humans also have a division of labor, first based off of gender, with men hunting and women gathering and child rearing. With ants, the females almost do everything except for the mating. Then we switch to agriculture. Labor resulted in a surplus of food, and as a result, some people took up different jobs such as craftsmanship and priests. Speaking of agriculture, some ant species farm fungus. These ants will cut up leaves and grass and bring them to their nests, and then use them as compost to grow fungi, similar to the way that we eat mushrooms. We have nonetheless not seen the birth of any sort of insectoid version of ancient Sumeria, but it's a good start. The two main types of jobs you'll see in an ant colony are that of the warrior and the worker. Workers pretty much do everything except for fighting. They get food, build tunnels, and other forms of infrastructure, along with raising the offspring of the queen. These worker ants pretty much run the economy as serfs toiling on their lady's land. Warrior ants are usually larger than their worker ant counterparts for obvious reasons, and they are more menacing. I mean, look at their nibbles. Nimbles? I don't even know how you pronounce it. They kind of look like jaws or tusks for insects. The international relations theory ants would probably live by when it comes to war would be realism, a perspective that doesn't necessarily love war, but claims that we live in an anarchic system in which the strong do as they will and the weak suffer as they must, the law of the jungle. To my knowledge, no ant colony has set up anything similar to the United Nations or the Geneva Conventions. In some cases, eggs are stolen, and the babies are raised as slaves. Humans also go to war after resources, however, oftentimes we do it for ideological motivations, or at the very least pretend to have ideological motivations to justify our wars. Speaking of ideologies, let's move on to governance. Humans have lived in a variety of different forms of governance. We started out as stateless societies and hunter-gatherer bands before growing into chiefdoms and later nation-states. Today, liberal democracies in countries such as the United States, EU, which isn't a country but a collection of countries, Canada, Australia, India, Brazil, Japan, South Korea, and many others, make up the dominant form of governance on the planet. However, autocracies still play a significant role in the world, with China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and others. Ants live in what I would probably describe as not just an authoritarian system, but a totalitarian system, in which every aspect of the ant's life is managed by the wider society, and most of all, the queen. Given that resources are pooled and the division of labor is shared, one could argue that the insects live in a society that is rather communistic. One that has very little inequality from member to member, with the massive exception of the leader running the show. Through this communist system, if you could call it that, ants benefit from the collective strength and strong social bonds. However, they do so at the cost of their own autonomy, and live life not that much easier than that of a gulag. When it comes to gender, they're also matriarchal, meaning that they're led by the females. Males do not play a particularly important role for the colony outside of mating, oftentimes dying in the process, which I guess is the best way to die, getting good pussy, literally. These males kind of operate like the members of harems, just the reverse of what happened in the Ottoman Empire. In most cases, nearly everyone else is female, granted a sterile female, including the workers and the warriors. This is different to humans, as most mammals tend to be dominated by males. One key difference is that most humans will pass off their genetics directly to their offspring through their children, while the soldier or worker ant contributes to the colony run by the queen, who will lay eggs to provide them, which will in turn contribute to their genetic lineage indirectly. In many ways, they sort of hack the evolutionary game, better than we did. Now obviously, this video has been an exercise in anthropomorphizing animals, or attributing human traits onto animals, such as economic doctrines and other human constructs onto insects that cannot comprehend such things. Ants obviously don't live in a capital C civilization like we do. There is no personal agency, so even calling them a society is a little bit questionable. They don't even have much culture, given the fact that they oftentimes don't pass on various evolving traits over a short period of time to the next generation socially, although we need more research to confirm this. And given the decor of their tunnels, there's not so much a lowercase c culture either. Their ability to organize on a mass scale and achieve grand aims, however, in a variety of different environments is astonishing. They have managed to have a tremendous amount of success in human-constructed environments like cities as well, and for that reason, there's a lot we can learn from ants. Thanks for watching.